Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Welcome back to Dbt02. We are starting with Magnolia because we started with Magnolia back in the first wave, so we're starting with it again. As I made it very clear last time, I don't own the deck. We have back Ribbon Fate Seeker.
Hi guys, I'm Ribbon Fate Seeker and I'm here to talk about my Magnolia deck.
Yep, so fun fact, my friend here is actually a new player in terms of the format, so it's actually the first format that is a part of in terms of actually playing it. So it's kind of glad to see that new players are actually coming to the game, and I was even fished one out of the pond to even do a deck profile. So today we'll be doing Magnolia. Let us begin. So it's quite similar to how we did the first time round, but there are changes, important changes you need to know. We start off with the right line. There's a generic good starter. This is Cherish. Cherish has two effects. Cherish's first skill is when ruled upon by Lattice, you look at the top card of your deck, you superior call it if it's grade 2 or less, if not, put it in the soul, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then the second skill is obviously from the back row. He hits 5k. Yeah, when he attacks, he gets 5k. So he makes very good magic numbers from the back row. He's a 13k beater or 18k. Actually, yeah, it's going to be an 18k because of Magnolia. Or if he's just able to attack somehow from the back row, it's already a 13k. So it's still pretty good for magic numbers. Then we have Lattice, the grade 2 thing. Lattice skill is when rolled upon by Magnolia. You Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck. You call it. If not, you put it in your hand. What's the requirement to put it in your hand?
If it's an order card.
It's an order card, yeah. So it's a grade 3, you can call it. And now, Magnolia has a Rearguard grade 3. Yay! Let's check that later, okay? Second skill is from the back row. When this unit attacks, Soul Blast 1 gives this unit 10k power. So that means it's a 25k beater from the back row because of Magnolia's effect. If not, it's still, if it somehow attacks without power, it's 20k, it's still not that bad. But it does cost soul. Soul is a very important resource in Magnolia. As you probably know, Stoicheia is just quite tight on soul. Set 1, they had no soul charge, but set 2, they have a surprise soul charger. So we'll be checking that out in a bit. Last is Magnolia. Come, I give you the honors. Say Magnolia skill.
Alright, Magnolia skill is counter blast 1 and then it can give any back row unit the ability to attack from the back row and plus 5k. The plus 5k is very important in making magic numbers, as you all know. And it allows pretty much almost any grade 2 unit or any grade 1 unit which can boost its own power to hit for very big numbers and requires a lot of damage. And on a Persona right turn, yes, your entire back row gains 5k and can attack for just the price of one counter blast. So timing Persona right is very important.
Another thing we have to bring up straight away is that this effect happens after Magnolia attacks. So you do need to make Magnolia one of your first few attacks before you actually start to use the effect, then combo off and do your multi-attack. Just something for you to take note of. It's really quite straightforward, as you can tell. Magnolia at first glance looks like turn 4 deck, but actually the deck has progressed to the stage that it has very good turn 3 plays as well. There always were good turn 3 plays for Magnolia if you were good enough, but the turn 3 plays are now even more accessible, which are it's just great to have more viable options open to you. We don't really need to get so much in depth into the old support because you guys have probably seen this already, or if you've even seen my old deck profile, you can check it in the link below. But regardless, we are here to talk more about the Dbt02 upgrades. So moving on, right deck done. We have 4 copies of Magnolia for the grade 3s and 4 of the Elephant. Magnolia we just described, so he does not need explanation. Let's talk about this guy.
Alright, so for our good old Elephant, when there's 2 units in front of him, he gains plus 5k. What does 2 units in front of him exactly mean? Well, that means when he's in the back row and when you have 1 unit in front of him and 1 opponent's unit, he immediately gains plus 5k. And as you can see,
this is like the opponent's front row, this is your front row, your Vanguard, and then this is him. So
yes,
counts as 3 units. It's kind of like the Yu-Gi-Oh column mechanic for those of you who know about it. That's basically what they're recreating in Vanguard now. After 10 years, they decided to bring back a relatively weak mechanic from Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think, generally speaking, the benefit of Magnolia being a board-based deck does help, and there are ways to ensure you do get this column off, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it was a spells and monsters, so it's a lot harder. So I guess it's a benefit that it's in this game, so it's a bit more easier. So you have to know when to time it right. So I just want to clarify, this is how the column mechanic works. This is the only column card in this deck, right?
Yes, this is pretty much the only column card in this deck. And moving on, this card is also one of the few grade 3s that we are going to run.
Yep.
And this means that it can attack without a booster, which is going to be very important in a deck which is heavy on grade 2s and pretty much relies on Persona Right to allow all of its attacks to hit or being in the back row in the plus 5k. And additionally, when this elephant has 3 units in front of him, which means, right, pretty much a full column of everything and him in the back row, which also means he needs some form of enabler. But we'll get to those when we talk about it actually.
I mean, enabler is Magnolia, but there's new ones.
Yes.
I think another thing I have to mention is that you could place in the front row, right? It counts for the column.
Yes, you can. It only counts for the column. The only requirement, right, for its effects to activate, would be to attack. So as long as it can attack, it doesn't matter. So you can just put it in the front row with a opponent's full column to just gain that plus 2k, or you can use him for the soul charge, which will come in handy a lot later.
So 2 or more units, he gains 5k. 3 or more units, he soul charges 1. And this is one of the few cards Magnolia can safely call to the front row as long as it hits the requirements. So generally, I think it's really good. The fact that we even have now a grade 3 in a deck that didn't have before, I think it's neat, and it's a good soul charging option, so that's pretty much it. The grade 2s, as usual, are a lot. So let's break them down. We have, in order of production, 1 Lattice from the right deck, 2 copies of Duga, 4 copies of Geonosia, 3 copies of Elenia, 2 copies of Ghost Chase. So it looks really, really like the old build. Well, no, it's not. We played 4 copies of Dynamaru. We touched this card before. We don't have to talk about it. Duga is very simple. Continuous skill. If you have 4 more rear guards, it gets 5k. Counts himself, counts during the opponent's turn. Good 15k beater. Really straightforward. I don't have to explain this. Really, it's just 15k. Then we have obviously. I'll start with this one. Elenia's skill is when called from hand, CB1, SB1. Open your drop zone, super call 1 card with the same grade or with grade 2 or less, grade 2 or less, and that unit gains 5k. So great way to build the board. As you just mentioned, Magnolia is board reliant, and you do discard stuff to open the right deck. So you get to toolbox it. It's like Grand Blue, but it's clearly not the Grand Blue. But it's fine. You get good board building options. It helps great for early turn rush because it's not fixed to having grade 3 or anything. So you can call this as early as turn 2 and just aggro. I think it's perfectly fine. Magic numbers with extra 5k, but beyond that, it is a bit of a brick because if you don't call it from hand or not, it's just useless. And CB1, SB1 is a lot of resources, so that's why we only need 3. You don't need plays at a 4. Honestly, time your resources right. The reason why we play this over other stuff that Magnolia does have access to more often now, like orders, is because orders don't have a body. Elenia still has a body, so you still want that at the end of the day because you want as many attacks in. You can't call a spell card. I mean, we're just not in that era yet where we can call orders or some stuff. I don't know. Maybe Zorga and Set 9 can do that. I don't know. But right now we have to make do with what we have, and this is one of the best options for board building. Then we move on to Ghost Chase. Blitz Order. Play during your opponent's turn. When you activate it, choose one of your units 5k, bounce one of your rear guards to hand. So it's a 5k shield effectively. Remember that all orders are once per turn. So if you use this once in your opponent's turn, don't expect to use your second copy on the same turn. Really straightforward, good utility, recycles, replacement.
And I also need to mention that you need at least 1 rear guard to activate this skill if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that's correct because it's
yes.
Return 1 rear guard to the hand. Oh, no, you don't have to. It's when played, give a unit 5k, then return a unit. Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, it's good if you do, because if not, it's a vanilla, but...
effectively a draw trigger.
Yeah, and you might as well just bounce the rear guard, right? Now for the big boys of the deck, and the most expensive boys of the deck. And these are the ones that really take up the most brain space, I guess. These are not very straightforward, so let's break them down. Let's start with the first one, Geonosia.
Alright, so Gymnosia here is a very good attacker in the sense that when he's on the board, right, he doesn't really do much on his own, but when you move him to the back row and activate him by a Magnolia skill, he gains plus 5k. It doesn't really seem threatening at first, but when you remember that this unit skill is when it counterblast, it gets to pass the power it has at the current point in time to another unit, which means, right, he benefits from all sources of pluses which this deck has. For example, if you revive him by Elena's effect, he immediately starts off at 15. When activated by Magnolia's effect, he goes up to 20. As we move on to the next unit, you can see, right, he can effectively start off at 25 or even higher than that, which is a card that you really want to look out for and time for. You want to get him in your mulligan as much as possible. And even, right, if you just have one copy of him, it's enough to make the fourth attack lethal.
We need to state that Gymnosia, when passing power, can pass to any unit. So as much as you focus on, oh, look at my back row, it's very powerful. Now your front row can also be very powerful because you can just pass the power there. Minimally, it's always a 15k plus, which just can't be denied, and that's just pretty good, right? We have talked about Gymnosia in our first video. You can check it out more in detail, but it's glad to see that Gymnosia is still being played, definitely, because, you know, it's a first set triple rare. It is still good enough to see play. Actually, most of the first set triple rares still see play. I mean, unless you're building a different variant, then they're thrown out like, goodbye Valiante. But okay, beyond that, that's still good that it's used, and it's really effective for the build still. It wasn't like power cracked or anything. And it's proven through set 2's triple rare, which is Dynamaru. Dynamaru has two skills. First skill is you when placed, you Soul Blast 1. So this is another Soul Blaster. Soul Blast 1. If your Vanguard's Magnolia, which is where'd he go? This guy. If your Vanguard's Magnolia, you choose one of your back row rear guards, and it can attack from the back row. So it's literally the Magnolia effect, copy and paste during the main phase. And now with this, you are no longer just stuck to, oh, if I did Persona right, it's only one attack per turn. You can now do 2, 3 attacks now without even Persona writing it, dependent on the number of copies of this thing you have. And it gets even better because its own skill is when chosen by your Vanguard's effect, this unit gains 5k. So even if you don't use your place, you know, it's like, it's, you know, that's it. It still has an active effect to give itself power and to swing. So this card actually reminds me a lot more of Alden, because Alden has a devastating on-play skill for the deck, and it still has a very good passive power effect as a body on the board, which helps. And Dynamaru has both. So really, I am looking forward to Magnolia in the next coming months, because this card really just gave Magnolia a huge upgrade. It is insane. Everything I said in the past about the past few cards can be literally reapplied here. It's a Duga with Magnolia's copy-paste effect, with the extra 5k from Magnolia's skill, and it costs soul that is covered by the elephant. So really, Sylvan Beasts, they've come a long way. 2 sets, 2.5 sets. But I think it's really shaping up to be a great multi-attack deck. So let's actually move on to the great ones. There's really nothing else to say. It's just such a good card. I mean, I would like to talk more about it, but really, it's such a good card. You should just play it yourself.
Stack the plus 5k on the bear and win profit.
Stack 5k on the bear, really, because the bear transfers any power transfer, so you can just pass everything to bear, and then bear just duplicates the plus. So yeah, it's pretty good.
3 Gymnosas, 3 bears, you win.
You literally win, bro. Alright, let's move to the great ones. Great ones, we play 2 Kuchi, we play 4 of the PG, and we play 3 copies of Charis. I have to remove Charis because we've already discussed about him just now. It's quite straightforward. Just wind back the video if you've already forgotten, thanks to your short-term memory. PGs, these are the stronger PGs. If you want to play the budget PG, I mean it's really up to you. But honestly, I definitely recommend you picking up the PGs if you can afford it. If you can't, then I mean it's fine. No one's going to harm you. But you should definitely still play the stronger PGs if you can. They're stronger. That's out of the way. Kuchi. Really, it's the same as the last time we did this deck profile, which was with Kuchi as well. Kuchi is the card from Festival Collection that is just really good. It's a 15k body, you know. You only can call this to the center back column. This unit cannot be ridden, cannot boost. Can boost. It just cannot attack, right? It can attack. Oh no, it can only be called to center back. My bad. Yeah. So you can attack from the back row with this. It's a 20k beater. You can boost this. It's a 15k boost. And keep in mind, it's a grade 1. So you could call this on the early game with like a Cherished Vanguard. And then you just swing with this and this. And well done. You have officially achieved 23k power on your first swing. Magnolia going second, like what I've been told, is just really good because you don't have to worry about it. If you have this guy, it's just boom, turn 1 is instant 1 damage unless you have an OT or something. So really, Kuchi is a great card in his deck. Most of the Festival Collection stuff, people deem it as skippable, but just some of them, like Jared for instance, and this guy is something that I really would still recommend you to actually play.
Alright, now we shall talk about the trigger lineup.
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, the starter. Okay, let's break it down.
Alright, so starter is your good old starter. Moving on to the quick triggers, we run it about 5 because normally people normally say that 8 crit is the optimum. But I feel that for Magnolia, we will prefer to run more draws as we are very, very piece reliant. And draws actually are effective on your opponent's turn too. So right, you can also benefit from the draw effect no matter whether you damage check it or drive check it. And it is also useful discard fodder for your right deck in case you don't know what you want to discard. Draw triggers and just go there. Of course, against Prison, you might want to be careful of what is the 5k you are discarding, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. And heal triggers are just heal triggers. So they are good and all. Now we are moving on to our last card that we are having for this deck profile, our Overtrigger, Bless Favor. So, Bless Favor is really the optimal Overtrigger for this deck. Of course.
At least it is one off because the other one is actually pretty good. We'll get to that in a bit, but let's talk about this one first.
Alright, so in a deck type on resources, what do you need? You need counter charge. But since Magnolia doesn't quite have access to good counter charge, we use the heal triggers. We use heal triggers instead to give us a form of indirect counter charge. And Bless Favor effectively acts as a heal trigger when he is being drive checked. So in essence, you are running another half of a heal trigger, which is extremely valuable. And he also just gives a draw. He's just a multi-trigger in essence. So there is literally not a lot of downside to running him. And then now we shall move on to talk about the other option.
Obaria is the one included in the start deck. It's a very simple effect. You give another one of your units 100 million. And you may say, well, why is this relevant? Isn't this just budget trash? No, it is not budget trash. Wake up. No, I'm kidding. This card is good because you have so many attackers in Magnolia. If you just give another unit 100 million, it's a literal why not? You turn one attack and 2 attacks into a PG or die situation. And with stuff like your amazing bear, which just takes power and just throws it to another guy, it really comes to a situation of how many PGs does your opponent have. That's literally the game they're playing now. So it is still relevant. Bless Favor is great in playing a more conservative and mid-range style strategy. It certainly is viable. Even if you play an aggro style build, Bless Favor certainly has its uses. But that's not to say that this guy doesn't either, because this guy actually has frightening synergy with the deck as a whole. As long as you have multiple attacks, giving more units 100 million is always going to be better to close the game rather than heal 1, throw 1, crit 1. It's just quite straightforward.
Might I add that every bear you have on the board when you trigger the vanilla OT essentially grants you an extra 100 million.
Yep.
So if you have 3 bears, all you need to do is just put the power on 2 bears, 1 bear pass the power to another bear, and then they pass it to a front row, and then you get 500 million attacks.
Yep.
Good luck.
As I said, the bear just duplicates your plus. 100 million is a very good plus. So, yeah, that actually covers it for Magnolia. Like I said, this is the second time we're covering Magnolia, and I will probably cover the decks that I can get my hands on upgraded versions of, or if I just buy it, but I'm not gonna buy it, I have no money. But yeah, that pretty much covers it for Magnolia Set 2. We have a lot of Set 2 decks, strangely, because I just know a lot of people that are building it except me, so I'm going to be covering as many of them that I can physically get my hands on. So that is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like it, like and subscribe. We finally hit 150 subs, I think, which is not bad. Hopefully we hit more with O2. We will be riding the O2 wave of hype and overpriced cards as we finally see whether we can actually build the next deck, Dragonic Over... Oh, no, what? Oh, okay, sorry. We have to play Bruce first. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.
Alright, goodbye.